Should practitioners read the jiu-jitsu waiver?
I would. I mean, yeah. I've had somebody get upset one time where they're like, "Hey, they're taking pictures of my kid, and their kid is on advertisements and stuff like that." And I'm like, "Well, look at the waiver."
Welcome to the Combat Creative Podcast, where we explore the heart of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, uncovering its creative, entrepreneurial, and leadership qualities with guests who embody what it means to be a leader in our BJJ community. Now on 3, 1, 2...
Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Combat Creative Podcast. And I'm so excited for today's episode because we have a practitioner who I've been following online for a while now, but he's a little different because he is a lawyer. So he's a practitioner by night, lawyer by day. No, but we have James Simmons from the Simmons Law Group. James, how are you, buddy?
Doing great, man. How you doing?
James has this little slogan, the legal champion, which you can say that now because if you go to his Instagram, he's been competing for a little while now, it looks like.
Yep.
And he's fresh off of winning gold at Orlando Open in the absolute bracket. So super happy for you, buddy.
Yeah,
now, you literally are a legal champion now.
Yeah, man.
Hopefully on and off the mats, right?
Definitely. Well, that was the point, man. I used that moniker before I won any kind of tournaments.
Yeah.
And I remember my coach was like, "Look, man, if you're going to start using that name, you got to kind of own up to something, man." And so it kind of pushed me into competing, man, and making sure I'm good at it.
Right. Before that, just give us a quick, before we jump into the legal things and maybe what advice or things that you can do helping gyms or practitioners, what got you into jiu-jitsu and why?
So I'll tell you, man, I started back in consistently in 2018. Prior to that, I was working at a big law firm.
Okay.
Doing 60, 70 hour weeks, just sedentary lifestyle, eating, just like my health was crap. And I was 100 more, I was 315 at the time.
Really?
And so, had one of those meetings with the doctor who's like, "Look, you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get diabetes, you're going to get all those scary things."
Yeah.
And so that kind of was one of those things where it was like, "Look, I got to get, into getting my health together." And so, I used to watch, I still watch UFC, stuff like that. So I saw that, there was a jiu-jitsu gym down the street. Let me kind of see what it's like. And I got hooked,
Yeah.
And I was able to kind of churn the weight down pretty quick, more so because I loved it, you know what I mean? And it was the one thing I stayed consistent with it, because obviously for me, it's like you go to Crunch or you go to LA Fitness and it's like you do the machines out there, and it's like after a few weeks, I'm just like I kind of fallen off of it. But this was something that I want to say outside of just the exercise, it was just the family that vibe you get from that keeps you there.
Hey, real quick, are you a jiu-jitsu professor or athlete who's struggling to keep up with creating content for your business or your personal brand? Well, listen up, because we get it. Content creation isn't easy, especially when you're running a business or training full time. If you would rather focus on what you do best and leave the content to the professionals, then please reach out to us here at Combat Creative. We've worked with world champions like Lucas Pinheiro, helping him create 30 pieces of content every month, and the results have been insane. His reach has grown by 278%, reaching almost 500,000 new accounts every month. If you are ready to grow your brand and become an authority in our community, let's make it happen. Visit combatcreativemedia.com and we'd be happy to help you. Now back to the episode. Now I know where you train now. You train at Element of Jiu-Jitsu, which is just north of downtown Orlando, right? Winter Park, is that the area? Great school. Definitely check it out. Is that where you started?
So I started out at American Top Team, and it was in East Orlando. That's actually when I met Tarsus.
Okay.
He's the owner of Elementum.
Yeah.
And basically, when he decided to start his own business, a lot of us kind of followed with him, just because obviously he's the one who kind of taught us jiu-jitsu, and it's kind of like a loyalty type thing.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, you stay with the people that invest in you. Now, how long have you been training now, buddy?
So since 2018. So,
okay, you said that.
Yep.
So how long is that? How good is my math here? I think a little while now.
Yeah.
So what's your journey been like with jiu-jitsu these last, 7 years or so?
So, it's kind of like, you'll see on the memes and things like that, that white belt phase is just, you're just getting run over.
Yeah.
Now, here was the thing that threw me off is like, I'm 315,
Yeah.
right? Why are there these little guys or
Really?
sometimes girls who are kicking my butt?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was kind of a check to your pride, your pride, your ego, that kind of stuff. And obviously you feel like, okay, when I get my blue belt, you think that, things change.
I'm learning some stuff,
You're
right?
learning some things. I felt like that was a good phase for me just because that's actually when I started competing and being more focused on the sport of it. And so that was kind of like the majority of my blue belt was just, I probably competed 3 or 4 times a week. And then, I've been a purple belt for about 3 years so far, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
2 plus. Yeah. And so, and this is like the fun phase.
Is
You know
it?
what I mean? It's like, you've learned enough to get yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
And then, hey, if a lower belt or somebody like beats me, taps me or whatever, I can always say, oh man, I'm just working, the bad
just working my
spots.
thing.
I'm trying to do something new,
I
Those
saw a
kinds
funny
of
meme.
things.
The guy was like, once you get to purple, now you can start saying, if you're about to get tapped, you can stop them and be like, hey, actually, here's how you can adjust to make it better. So I think for years, one of my buddies I worked with for a while, he's the one who kind of got me into jiu-jitsu. He would send me these memes, and I had like no connection to what he was talking about. Like
Yeah.
he was obsessed with it, and I'm like, no, it is fun. It's a
Yeah.
fun part of it.
That's the funny thing, man. It's like I'll send those memes, reels, or whatever to my wife, and she's just like, I don't get it. And I'm like, this is hilarious. But
Now, you're not the only person in your family that trains, right?
that's true.
So who else
That's true.
trains?
So my oldest, he's 10, and my youngest, he started when he was 4, so he's 6 now. So so my oldest has been training for almost 7 years, and then my youngest has been doing it for a couple years. So
How do they like it?
they love it, man.
Do they?
I'll tell you because we've got a lot of kids in our gym, and so they have their own kind of like set of friends aside from school.
Yeah.
Like even my boy, he turned 10 today, but his birthday party was Saturday, and the majority of his friends were from jiu-jitsu. And I mean a couple from school, but
No, I love that. My son just my son just turned 12 last weekend.
oh wow,
And like half of his small handful, but like half of them are from that. And since we homeschool, it was really nice seeing that, he is making friends, especially from that environment.
Definitely.
It's really great.
Definitely.
Sometimes they don't want to, kids are interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe I'm a little biased because I'm his dad. I feel like he's pretty good.
Yeah.
I feel like he could be a lot better. He's starting to like lose interest a little. I want him to compete because the last time he competed, he got gold.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
But he's he gets real anxious on competition day. So I'm like it's been tough as a dad trying to push him to, like, I just want him to enjoy the sport, but I also know what he's capable of. So I want to push him to that, but also not want him to like fall out of love with it. It's been this last year's kind of been a tough balance for me to figure out as a dad who trains jiu-jitsu with my son.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I definitely understand what you're saying because, like, with my oldest, he's one of those guys. When you bring him to the gym for practice, he's like, in my mind, he's awesome. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He's doing belly down arm bars and all this other stuff. But it's the same thing. It's like when
Yeah.
he competes, that anxiety, that stress
tough.
kind of kicks his butt.
that's why I started. I think I mentioned on here before. So I've had 4 matches this year, and that's only because I wanted to prove to him. I wouldn't want to be a dad that was telling my son to compete in jiu-jitsu when I didn't have the guts to do it myself.
I hear you.
So I kind of had I had to like self-check I had to do like really kind of look myself in the mirror and be like, all right, you're going to push him to do this, but you haven't done it. So you got to do it.
Exactly.
And I'm really glad I did. First time I did it, I was like, well, I'm never doing that again. Thankfully, I happened to come out on top, but I just remember being so tired and like felt like someone put me in a washing machine.
Oh yeah.
Tumble. Couldn't remember. Couldn't hear my coach. Couldn't hear it. I had to watch the video back and be like, oh, he was coaching me. I didn't hear none of it. And I remember my son asking me, like, Dad, do you care, like, where you, like, Dad, what if you lose? He was in the bullpen with me. He's like, we kind of snuck him in. And he's like, what if you lose? What if you lose? And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I prepared. I'm going to go out there and do my best. Like, I'm going to try to win. But I'm not defined as a person by where I stand on the podium. And so, like, I try to use that as an example, like, for him, and we'll see. I think we're going to try to get him back out there here pretty soon.
That's awesome. Hey, well, I'm telling you, man, Tampa Open, they have adults and kids. So.
I know. We're looking at that one.
Yeah, there you go. So,
I think, are you signed up for that?
I signed up for that. I actually, my son signed up for it, too.
Did he really?
He's been off for 2 years, and, like, you know, I want to say it was a part of Orlando Open, but also, you know, we're trying to get him back out of that, like, anxiety, stress type stuff.
I'm trying to make it fun. So we have a family at our gym who their kids are kind of enjoyed to compete, and they almost do a bribing thing, but it's like it's tough to bribe. But you want to bribe them for a good purpose, I guess. But like, hey, if you do this, but just that's kind of the thing in life. If you work hard, if you do this, there is a good outcome, and just trying to change that for the kid, and they make it special, competition day for them. So they let them choose something to do. So it kind of takes the edge off so they can focus on that. And it's worked like really well for them. Their kids have been competing a lot, and they haven't been incredibly successful at it, but they're enjoying it. So
I'll tell you so this is one rule that I always do with my son is, well, both of them is, you know, on the way home after training, I don't ever talk to them about like, what they should have done or how bad, you know, something went, or, you know, if they got tapped or things like that. Because I want them to kind of know that, hey, you know, you had these different successes. You know, even if you went against a kid that was mauling you, well, guess what? You recovered your guard, man. That was awesome how you swept them or whatever, you know. That way you kind of build them up a little bit when they're going home. And then on the way to training, what I do is that's when I start talking to them about, hey, man, when you go in there, think about, you know, your grips. You know, think about when you should do this or that. Because I feel like if you drop those seeds before, then they're going to have a little bit more confidence and remember what they need to do when they're facing that conflict or that confrontation. Excuse me. And then, you know, it also kind of bumps them up afterwards, because everybody, you know, it's just society itself is like negative. You know what I mean? It's like you want to look at the negative things that, you know, happen, because those are what kind of, you know, are on the forefront, you know. But with kids, man, I know that my son, he's my oldest. He's like the emotional one. So it's like you gotta say, hey man, get out of your mind. Don't think about, you know, XYZ with this kid. Think about what you just did.
Yeah. Hey everyone, just wanted to take a quick break to say thank you so much for watching. And if you like what you're hearing, Foss Studios can help you create your own podcast with ease. Having a podcast is a lot of hard work, and I couldn't do it without them. So if you'd like to learn more about their services, head over to fossstudios.net. That's Foss, P-H-O-S, studios.net to learn more. Back to the show.
Parenting.
There you go.
And then throw jiu-jitsu in it. It's like, it's great, but just when I think I got it figured out, they become a middle schooler. So, but no, I think that's a great way to look at it. You know, start it off with some advice, but end it with some positive reinforcement, some things that they can, you know, they can find little wins. Yeah. It's important to find wins. It's so easy for us as humans to only focus on negativity. I know my business coach and other people that have mentored me in business, they're like, it's so much easier. Then they'll test it. Tell me something bad about yourself that you need to work on. And people are like, right away. All right, tell me something good about yourself. And like people, they really struggle with it. Like it's hard for them too. And translating into business now, you're a lawyer. You have your own law firm, right? Yes, sir. And how has that intersected with jiu-jitsu? There's a little bit of story there about kind of your professor encouraging you to go out on your own a little bit, right? Or
Yeah. So,
share that.
and that's, so I was at this law firm, kind of, not only just health, but also just mentally, emotional. It was kind of draining.
Yeah.
Where I was. And, we used to have these competition advanced classes. And after the class, our professor would have everybody kind of like, because at this point you're all exhausted, knocked down, and everybody sits down on the mats. He'll tell you to kind of lay back, close your eyes. He'll turn the lights down, and he's just walking around, just kind of bumping you up, like, hey, think about what happened today. And then he goes away from just jiu-jitsu, but he starts talking about your day. And like, what are some of the things that you challenged yourself at work? Now, what do you got going on here? And this one time, towards when he was, about to open his gym, he started talking about, what his dream was. And he said, look, I was a businessman in Brazil, and, I worked for my dad. I was kind of like the next guy in line type situation, making good money, but he had been training, for, I think, since he was like 13 or something like that, maybe even younger, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So he started when he was younger, and he was like, this is what I wanted to do. This is really something that I wanted to have jiu-jitsu and make it a business. That's what made him leave to come to America. Florida, started his own thing. And so that's when he was kind of telling me, for him, he had to make that risk because obviously, you have something that is stable. You've got a business that you're going to walk into, all those kinds of things. Now you're just creating something from scratch, right? And that was a trigger to me because it was like, since I started practicing, I've always wanted to have my own firm. And it's always, you have other friends that are like, hey man, you got to be careful because think about how are you going to get these clients? You're at this big firm because that's why, they have the advertising, they have the marketing, they have the ability to grab all these folks.
Exactly.
So, why would you risk that? And I thought about it and I said, well, look, if I know someone who left a different country, right? Didn't really have a roadmap or like really concrete what he wanted to do, but he was that determined that he had to, going through what I would say is, financial hardships, all those different things, to now, his business is banging, going well. I said, you know what, I can do it too, and so that was kind of a special thing between us, because we started our businesses around the same time, and that was actually one part of our relationship as friends that we're always talking about is just like how we went through COVID together, those kinds of things.
Man, for us business owners who got through COVID, like,
and that's always my running joke because I'm like, I was the smarty that started his firm a year before COVID,
dude,
the pandemic.
I started mine like a year before it technically started at the end of 2018, but like I went full time. I was in the business right away, but I went part time in my business all through the first half of 2019, still working part time at my family's business. And then I think it was like July of 2019, August, I went full time. And then, boom.
and I'm telling you, and it's like, what was crazy is because, I do personal injury. So
sure.
Auto accidents, slip and falls.
Were there any injuries? Not really.
Because everybody's at home,
At least you were in Florida, man. We were in New York. And okay, so I was contracted, my media company, by a contractor working with the Army Corps of Engineers to document the building of the COVID hospitals for New York City. These were the hospitals. Remember that whole like chart, the peak.
Oh, yeah.
And they were going to be like, okay, like we're hitting the peak. And then we're building these hospitals. So the hospitals can take care of the COVID people, but the accidents, the injuries can go to these off hospitals. And anyways, all came down to like they built 25 hospitals in New York City, I didn't ever put anybody in any of them
Oh,
because guess what happened? There weren't any accidents.
Yeah.
No, there weren't any issues. So, yeah, what a time to be a personal injury lawyer.
It was rough, but I think that's again, small businesses, right? You can't just dwell into that time frame. You know what I mean? You got to think of other things, other ways to survive.
No one's coming to save you. You got to figure this out. And that's one thing that I've really enjoyed about training jiu-jitsu is, yes, I have trained in a good environment with good training partners, but like I have to figure this out and then figure it out either through, training and then implementation, learning, then implementation. Because no one's gonna do this for me. I have to do it for myself. And that aligns with business. Now, something legal in jiu-jitsu is I travel and other people travel. And one thing all of us jiu-jitsu practitioners deal with legally is probably if we go to a gym for the first time, we sign a waiver. Mm-hmm. Now, probably nobody reads it, but I was just curious from a legal point of view and for practitioners, is there any things or pitfalls that practitioners should look out for legally if they're looking to train or something like that?
Yeah, so, one thing I would say is, again, the waiver that you get, right, it's going to be chock full of everything. It could be, you could stub your toe to passing away type thing. That's how they want to cover everything, right? I would say, look, there are some, in most, and I'll tell you, I've been working on some of these waivers myself, but with these waivers, there's a paragraph in there that talks about, make sure you get checked out by your PCP or primary, kind of make sure that you're fit for this. I would always say, before any kind of training, make sure you kind of find out if you're healthy for it. You know what I mean? Take time. If you have any heart problems, any kind of asthma, those kinds of things. But again, one thing that you should always do as a practitioner, right, is don't just start with one gym and stay there. I would try other gyms too. Some folks, they go to certain places and these are like they go 100%. Everybody's going super hard. Or you have, the gyms where it's kind of laid back, or there's like the families on vibe, stuff like that. The reason that ties into your legal, stance there is a lot of the gyms that are, I would say, commercial, they are more geared towards profit, more geared to protecting their own. And so you kind of get a feeling from the practitioners that this is more of a commercial gym I'm at, you know what I mean? And so those folks, if you do fall, you get hurt or things like that, they're going to be a little bit more cold, crass to kind of,
But if they're more of a franchise type model, do you think they're more legal? They have more things in place legally, like systems?
Definitely.
So they may be lacking on like the personal side, but I was just wondering about that because like sometimes you could train at a place you love, but what if they don't have all their ducks in a row?
Well, I'll tell you, sometimes it's scary. I'll tell you, for franchisors, right? Franchises. You would think that they've got all those safeguards, things like that. Unfortunately, some of the bigger groups, it's not that. I will say it's not that expensive to franchise a gym. All right, and most of these guys, they're, they've got their own, family, things like that, and a lot of their intake or a lot of profit goes to the franchise, not, and a lot of stuff goes to overhead, right? And so there are you're still a business owner, and you still have to think about protecting your gym with insurance and different things like that. But if you can't meet all of those things, some of these owners, they just kind of fly by,
the seat of their pants. Yeah.
And I've had situations where a gym owner reaches out to me and it's like, hey man, we didn't get a waiver signed, and this guy came from another state, broke his leg, just, and it was more on his fault type thing, but
Yeah.
now he's suing us, and they're suing the franchise too, and can you help me with defense type things, and so I've done it on both ends.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. So should practitioners read the jiu-jitsu waiver?
I would. I mean, yeah. I mean, you're probably signing away some rights or things like that, or you may be assigning things. Some folks. I've had somebody get upset one time, not at our gym, but prior to, where they're like, "Hey, they're taking pictures of my kid, and their kid is on advertisements and stuff like that." And I'm like, "Well, look at the waiver. It says that you gave them." An
Gave
ability
them
to do that.
right to take photos for marketing purposes. That's a good point. So it's not just always about like protection, like physical for yourself. It could be, something like marketing purposes. What about academy owners now? What are some things or mistakes that you've seen them make, or things they can look out for just to make sure that they're safe?
One thing that I've kind of noted from a lot of Brazilians that open gyms, they may not know all the pitfalls of what legal claims that people in America bring, right? And so, it's not as litigious in Brazil as it is here, and the varied amounts of type of claims that
sure.
folks will do here, right? And so, obviously part of it is you want to talk to them about safety. You want to make sure, hey, do you have your procedures up to code with, how you're training employees, how, do you have locking systems and things like that? When it comes to your bathrooms, do you have, locking abilities, or do you have cameras, and sometimes it's not just because you're trying to protect your own assets, like somebody breaking in or things like that, but it's also, hey, look, if somebody makes a claim that they were harassed or something that, maybe they're saying that you did something that you weren't supposed to do. Well, if you have adequate cameras where they're supposed to be, right, then you're protecting yourself by able to show, hey, this wasn't what you're trying to say didn't happen or whatever. Some folks, they don't have sexual harassment, just a stand on it, or something like that. And you always want to have something like that in a grappling sport.
That has happened in schools because these schools are run by humans and humans make mistakes. Hopefully we find the ones that are good. But I mean, and it's not just, it could be for your protection or your family, or even if you're the school owner, somebody could accuse you of something. If there was an academy owner who maybe wanted some advice or some opinions on some of these things, is that something they could reach out to you for, to talk to you about? Or
Definitely. So that is one of the things that I started doing because of the benefits I was getting from jiu-jitsu. I felt like I'm getting so much from jiu-jitsu, I need to be able to give back.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I do is I do what are called site inspections, where I'll go out to the gym, I'll kind of look at what they have set, and then we'll kind of talk about, hey, look, this room here, not only could you use this room for storage, but if you outfit it, this could also be a safe room. Say there's a mass shooter or something like that where you want to protect your members. Here's an area. Or you need to have these points of access of your gym with cameras or whatever. We'll go through your employee handbook. What do you have in here? Let's look at your waiver. Does it really protect you from certain claims or not? What is it? What does your lease mean? Like some people don't know that when you lease a property, a lot of these leases have clauses in here where you're basically defending the landlord too, and so you have to know what are you signing up for when you're having your business here, those kinds of things. And so it's more of a it's a way to kind of educate them, but also it also is a way that I market too, because then it's like, all right, now I have a point of contact of somebody that I know cares and will help, protect me and things like that. But if there's an accident or there's somebody in the gym that needs your help, I can connect you with them. So.
You mentioned giving back to jiu-jitsu because of what it's done for you. I wanted to ask you about just how has jiu-jitsu impacted your life both personally and professionally?
So for personally, I think that, everybody kind of says, jiu-jitsu is their therapy, right?
Yeah.
I want to say that is that definitely is my therapy, but I will tell you that it's a family, it's almost like a extension of my family, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just me when I'm looking at punishing the kids or something like that, you know what I mean? Or they need to act up, or they're acting up or something like that. I've got Coach Tarsus, I've got Coach Anderson, Coach Larissa, who are like, hey, I heard you didn't do well, or you got, upset at school or something like that, So you have a village,
Yeah,
what
really.
I mean? And so that's kind of the feeling that I have. I think everybody knows my kids, everybody knows my wife, whenever they're at the gym, or even, because my wife doesn't train.
Okay.
But when she gets there, it's like people talk to her. She has, they know about her, she knows about them, things like that. And so that was more of more of a community that I got from jiu-jitsu outside of just the health benefits. And that's obviously the main thing. The main thing was the health. Now, for being a lawyer, I think how it helps me is to be a lawyer, you have to be really focused on strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to know, not only what arguments you're bringing, but you also got to know the other side and how to kind of counter something that they're going to argue against you. And it's more planning. It's more game planning.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing that I've kind of figured out from jiu-jitsu as well. It's like jiu-jitsu is kind of like chess. You can't just jump right into it. You know what I mean? You have to map out. Let me map out a transition, or before I start moving for this grip, what is the next step that I want with that? Those kinds of things. And there was a book that my professor had recommended to me, and he said, "Look, this is a sports book, but a lot of business owners use this, right? Because it gives you a mindset of how you should handle day to day." And I think it's like the mindset of champions, something like that. Obviously, champions type of thing, mindset, And so, but the book is about all these super athletes, Michael Jordan, Babe Ruth, all these different names, where they're kind of trying to find out how did they set themselves aside, apart from other pro athletes, right?
Yeah.
And one of the main things I got from that was most guys like Kobe, Michael Jordan, all these guys, they don't think about the championship or the win. They're thinking about, no, at this game, I want to hit this many free throws. I want to hit these many assists. If I do this, that, and a third, then we'll win. But they look at it a breakdown, point by point. And I learned that was the same thing in jiu-jitsu. My first few competitions, I was getting my butt whipped.
I'm sure.
And it was because I didn't have a game plan. Then when I got a game plan, it was like, it wasn't as intricate. It was just like, here's the takedown I want, here's the transition, maybe I'll get this sub. But now, like as I continue doing it, it's like, okay, wait a minute. Now you need this grip before you even switch to this side or whatever.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Point by point. So now when I'm in matches, I can see from that very first, you're grabbing that collar. Now I need to know, all right, what other grip, what other thing, and that's the same thing with law. It's like, look, if I'm going to make this argument, all right, I've got to understand that I'm not going to win just off of that. What would be the counter to what the defense is going to say? They're going to claim that my client was at fault. Well, what are some of the case law that kind of says that this is not their fault, or that there's a primary party that is responsible, those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think I saw on your Instagram post that you put a quote from Tarsus where he said, "Hey, you wanted to start competing," and he said, "I hope you don't win your first match."
Yes.
I feel like I could hear him say that. Just like he's just kind of to the point, That's kind of funny. And you did, and you didn't.
Yeah.
But now but that's part of like the growth. I think in business and in law, but even I was thinking about what you were saying, and even in business too. I think at many times, you come out the gate so excited and realizing, no, like I'm in the white belt years of this business. Mm-hmm. And I see on the Facebook groups all the time, people are like, what advice for white belts? And like, just survive, get through it. And then being through that. And now coming at what I would probably call the tail end of my blue belt years in business. Like we're learning things, we're implementing systems, we're making sales. We're actually like, man, I'm actually doing this and sustainably. Same thing kind of in jiu-jitsu. And, I'm trying to prepare myself for like the next phase. And I hope it's when it starts becoming a little more fun. So not that it ever gets easy or you ever stop learning, but that's why I think so many times, like as I look at my jiu-jitsu career, it almost is lining up perfect with my business career at the same time. And whether they affect each other directly or indirectly, I'm sure it has some impact.
Yeah.
But James, this was great. I want to give you a chance to let people know where they can find you. What is your website, or reach out to you online? Where can they find you?
So you can go to my website. It's mylegalchampions.com. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, the Simmons Law Group. I think our Instagram is the Simmons Law Group, PLLC. And, that's how you kind of reach out to me. Phone number is 407-454-3000.
Love it.
It's also, like I said, man, I try to be a little bit more interactive with folks. We've got a smaller group, and that's because I want to be, more personable with folks.
Good. So. Well, I think you're doing a great job. I think what you do is important, and I've certainly enjoyed watching and following you online for the last several months, and I'm happy to know you.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
Guys, reach out to James. And I just want to say thank you to all of you guys with all the shows and podcasts you can be listening to. The fact that you took time out of your day to listen to this one, we really appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. Please like the video. If you made it this far, I know you can like it. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.